Alright, hello, welcome to a part 2 VOD review. This is a follow-up to the first VOD review, which was done on WinstonsFlem, who played on the original VOD review was on King's Row as well. He played Junkrat and Hanzo, so this is kind of a follow-up to see if things have gone for the better. So let's begin. So you do switch to Hanzo after the beginning, so this is fine.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
So this is a small thing, but notice how it looked like you wanted to take another shot, right? Because you tried to grapple and you missed. So in a situation where you think Widow is better than in a situation where you think Widow's the best hero, you might as well you can just switch off to Hanzo and then switch back to Widow, which will reset your grapple and then go. But I think the mistake is not the fact that you don't go back to Widow. I think the mistake is that you tried to go for a grapple. It's like the game prevented you from making the mistake, because I don't think you would have found much value here on Widow. But that doesn't really matter too much.
Get you healed up.
Alright, let's go back.
With every death comes honor. With honor, redemption.
So something that I like to do. So notice how you're coming to the fight late, right? So this is again a whole Sonic Arrow idea where, like, you know they're here. Oops, holy moly. Okay, you know they're here, but regardless of how good your team's communication is, they'll never be able to communicate someone's exact position, right? You know, like, you know that Arisa's say on this, their Arisa's on this half of the point, or even if you know if she's within this box. Right, of the point, like her head is like this much, like they're not gonna say like, oh, she's on this brick, like of this, you know, these coordinates. So knowing this, if you're ever coming to a fight late, you want to be looking to get the intel on the enemy's exact positions. So what you can do is right here, you can put your Sonic Arrow, you can knock your Sonic Arrow, and because you're about right here, you can do like a really low charged shot this way, and the trajectory will kind of be like this, and it'll land like here. So it'll give you some Sonic information of like the guys right here. Okay, corner shotting, I like that. Okay, so, well, no, I'll let it play out a little bit more.
Let's get you healed up.
Okay, so if we go back, so what are your threats here? At like when you're in this poke phase. Okay, so your threats are Hanzo, Zen, right click, and pull hook, right? Okay, so I'd say at long range, the only one of those that can really get you is the Hanzo right click. Like, even if the Zen's really good, he's gonna have a tough time actually landing long range right clicks unless you're like standing still and in cover. So the Hanzo is dead. We know that from the kill feed in the previous fight. So you can be looking to make some opportunities for yourself, because right now you're not doing anything. So like if you're like an Ana against the Widowmaker, then I understand like not doing anything. But you just want to get every little bit of ult charge you can squeeze out. So what you could do is actually you can rotate here up to theater, so you can establish this angle, because King's Row, on first point attack especially, has a lot of really nice sniper sightlines. So this is a decent one because you can kind of see like that, but the issue is you can't really see people that are in this area. And the greatest sightline is right here because you can see all the way into alley. But anyways, like from here, you can see similar to sightlines to if you were on theater, but just because you're closer to the tank line, it leaves you more exposed to pull hook, and in general, you leave yourself more exposed to damage. So, you know, it's okay to be somewhat aggressive. Maybe not aggressive, but like you can poke during these pre-fight phases, pre-fight times, breaks. Yeah. Okay, I really like how you contribute to shield break, but then once you notice the gap in between the shield, you go for that. That's really good.
Hello. My ultimate is charging.
My ultimate is dead. Get in there and I will put you. Hello there. Objective A captured. Escort the payload.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk about the. Oh well, we'll let the dragons play out. Okay, so what I really like about the dragons is, you kind of split it right down the middle. Maybe like the trajectory is a slight bit off, but I like the general idea here. Is that you split the team. Though if you had went like a little bit like this, I think you could have totally split them a little bit harder. But the general concept is there, and that's really good.
Into the iris. I need healing.
Pick it up. Oh, let's break this. Damn!
Fire at will.
Okay, so your aim is pretty good. I think. What is your SR? Do I even have you? I do have you on this account. I have everyone. What is your SR? Okay, so you're about 2400. Like, I think your aim. You could your aim itself. You could probably that's like 2800 aim. Like your aim is better than your rank. If you're consistent like this, which it seems like you are. You've been pretty consistent in the 3 minutes of this map, which is a decent amount of time. But I'd like to see you utilize more interesting's a bad word, but more diverse positioning, because so your positioning, the angles you always hold on the enemy always seem to be like in front of them. So even if you're on high ground, you seem to always be like facing the enemy. So, you know, when they were holding here, you could have moved to this flank this way. So, and you wait, and then as your team starts pushing up, you can corner peek. And if you have Storm Arrow, you could probably find Zen or McCree, which are fairly easy targets. Because, you know, you being in the front line, you're still getting value because, you know, you're good at Hanzo. But you could find even more value by taking these flanking positions. Or even like instead of being here, you can take this position if you want to go for front line, if you want to play safer. So, you know, you're a little too close to the front line. Now, I'm not saying that you're not getting value, but I'm just saying you could be getting more value if you're either farther away or if you're behind them. F this one.
Time to accelerate. Healing boost.
My ultimate is charged.
Actually, hold on. I want to look at something again. Not here. Yeah, okay.
I need healing.
Pick it up. Oh, let's break it. Damn! Time to accelerate. Healing boost.
Okay. So what I'm noticing about your aim is that your tracking is pretty good, and like your crosshair placement with your movement is good. So what I mean by that, so we're at 333 right now.
With every death
So
comes honor.
in terms of your aim,
With honor, redemption.
so when you're playing a hero that you can track on like Hanzo, so you're good at matching your enemy's movement with your own to actually lead the shots, you know. And when your enemy's moving and you're not exactly moving at their same speed, your tracking is fairly decent. But when things go off is when movement becomes too sporadic. Your aim kind of goes like this if they're here, and then you kind of shoot and then they move, and then you kind of like get lost. And I'll show you what I mean.
Now entering King's ready for battle.
My ultimate is charged.
We need to go back further. Okay.
Oh, time to accelerate.
Like you see when the target's moving kind of all over the place and you have to move your crosshair quickly, you have to move your mouse quickly to actually lock onto that target, that's when your aim kind of goes all haywire because you don't flick quick enough or accurately enough. See, when your crosshair is right next to the target, like that shot nearly hit. Like your crosshair placement's much better on these targets that are very close to your crosshair. Like when you don't have to move much, your aim is good, but when you do, that's when it goes kind of crazy. So what you can practice is, I keep going back and forth, but I'll show you the point. This is mainly a McCree thing. So what you can practice is, you just go into the training range, or you can do this in a live match, but I want you to charge up the arrow when you're not looking at them, and then you kind of flick and release like that. Like, I want you to practice doing that, because I think that's what you probably struggle with most. And Hanzo's a very, in terms of aim style, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do, and there's a lot of things that you have to learn. So, you know, if I play Hanzo only tracking versus if I play Hanzo only flicking, those are both viable aim styles for Hanzo. But if you want to be a great Hanzo player, not just a good Hanzo player, you want to be able to alternate between aiming styles and be proficient at all of them. So whether that is matching movement, or these guys aren't moving, but whether that be, you know, matching enemies' movement with your own so that you don't have to move your crosshair, which is what you're pretty good at, or slow tracking, which is also what you're pretty good at, and flicking, which is what you need to work on.
Now entering King's The sight.
Now to accelerate. Healing boost.
My ultimate is charged.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
My blade is ready to be unleashed. The payload is moving. Join me.
Okay, so the fight was even, I believe, before you got those 2 kills. And if we go back and look at how you got those kills, right here. Okay, so notice how this is like a kind of a 90 or like a perpendicular flank, if that makes any sense. Is your Reinhardt dead? Yes, he is. Okay, so it's not even. You're actually down. So your team's pushing this way, right? And you're going from like here. So this is definitely a flank, right? And their main tank's right here, and you're kind of right at his side. So notice how, like, when you take these, like, what I would call, like, you know, flanking positions, like, look how much you've done, and, like, it didn't seem like these were, like, the most difficult shots to hit for you. So you have the ability to, you know, do all this damage. So position yourself so that you can actually utilize your skill set.
I have taken the payload. 我が敵を食らう 我が敵を食らう
Cease your resistance.
Walk it off.
And see, like, look, okay, so right there. So there's a good portion of time where you just potatoed the entire time. And, like, your aim's been fairly good throughout this whole thing, and then suddenly it just goes all out the window. And if we look at why,
The payload is approaching its destination.
Hold up now.
Cease your resistance.
The dragon pursues.
so you're against a Mercy, a fairly mobile hero, Zen's about to die, a Hammond, and a Tracer, which are all, like, quick moving targets.
Under attack.
Like, you see how the Tracer blinks, and then you just, the arrow's just, like, in the middle of god all nowhere?
Walk it off.
Let's try that again.
Now this Tracer's behind you, so you do turn around quickly, which is nice. You pull Storm. And, like, look how, like, your flicking is all over the place. And you hit 2 shots in a row because the Tracer slows down. I assume she's out of blinks right now. It's all glitched, but she is. Oh, she's in okay. Yeah, so the Tracer had to stop because she ran out of cooldowns and then she blinked. So yeah, definitely work on your flicking.
What? That is it.
Double kill.
And see, when you have to make those small movements, because your crosshair right now, Right here. Okay. So your crosshair's in the general direction of where the tracer's going to be, so that once you actually, starts moving, you just have to move ever so slightly. Like, that's what's really great about your aim. Your crosshair's in the right place, and you're not, like, overworking yourself. Because some people, their crosshair placement's all over the place, and they have to fucking do wild things to even hit anything. But your crosshair placement and, like, prediction of movement is good. But sometimes when you can't really predict movement that much, or when things are things are moving all crazy, that's when your aim starts to struggle.
Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Do you switch heroes or do you play Hanzo the whole time?
I understand.
Ready for battle.
I don't remember. I think you play Hanzo the whole time, which is fine.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Okay, so two things. Or no, one thing really. Again, I want to see you utilize your Sonic Arrow more because, the enemy's kind of doing these really weird rotations. And a lot of it's shrouded by these kind of like these upper walls here. So try your best to actually, just Sonic these walls so your team has like a slight heads up in case the enemy suddenly goes for like some super aggressive play. You have that small bit of intel before all hell breaks loose.
See the dragon's eyes.
Unlike, you don't need a Sonic the Widow there unless you plan to like peek her. But you hit her, so can't complain too much.
Greetings. Hello.
Like here, it seems you don't really know where people are. So, you have that Sonic Arrow to figure things out. So by the time you actually, like yourself, see them, they're already kind of like right in your face and you're in a really bad position now. Okay. I like the dragons. Because I think the only way you guys would have been able to save that fight was with those dragons. So I like that old usage.
I will not be defeated so easily.
And I like how you also were prioritizing the Reinhardt.
Blocked by the dragon.
Personne n'échappe à mon bien.
I need healing. My ultimate ability is never second guess.
avec ta haie. Огонь по готовности.
See through the dragon's eyes. Group up with me. By the dragon.
Gale the Mahal.
Group up with me. By the dragon.
Gale the Mahal.
Okay. So, I think your general positioning is pretty good. You're taking a kind of mid-range, like somewhat aggressive, somewhat passive kind of playstyle, which I think is fairly ideal for Hanzo. Again, your Sonic Arrow usage still needs some work. Like, it just seems like you kind of get it somewhere. So, okay. Last time I didn't really give, like, proper solutions to how to use that Sonic Arrow better. So I think what I would do is just like Sonic Arrow, the potential for value isn't ridiculously high, right? It's a long cooldown, but mainly because it lasts, a fair while. So just try to use it. If you think about it this way, right? If I can't see where the enemy is, but I know the general direction where the enemy is, or I know where some flanker is going to come through, place your Sonic Arrow there. That's how I would think about it. Because a lot of the times you do know where the enemy is coming from, you just don't know their exact positions. So, with that Sonic Arrow, that could open you up to, like, an early headshot as they're peeking corners.
Coming at you. Oh, yeah.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Hello there. Hey there.
Fire at will. Gale the Mahal. Fire at will.
So, I think that anyone watching that could understand that your positioning was too aggressive. But there's one big thing that you did, which was the reason for why your positioning was too aggressive. And you'll notice this if you go and watch when Hanzos die due to over-aggressive positioning. There's always one thing that triggers that overextension, and it's using his leap aggressively. So go back and watch. Look. Nope, you already used it. Go back a few seconds.
Fire at will.
Okay, so right now your positioning's fairly decent. We'll look at you. We'll even look at you from third person here. So right here, right, your positioning's great. You're your front line's all the way up here, and you're back there. So you chuck the Dragon Strike. You know, you walk forward. Your positioning's okay, but then you leap forwards, so that you're over here. And if I were you right here, and I think you would understand this too, if you were in this situation and you had your leap, you probably leap backwards, but you don't have it. You used it to get here. Ooh, McCree. I'm very curious to see how you aim on McCree. Okay. So, when a Doomfist enters Meteor Strike, it's okay for him to land on you. Or sorry, I shouldn't say it's okay for him to land on you. It's okay for him to target you, because as long as you have that combat roll up. So, if you were saving your combat roll for that Meteor Strike, then that's great. But then you have to actually react quick enough so that you can roll and flash him. You guys lose this here? Yeah, you do.
5, 4,
Okay, hiding in hotel.
2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Don't
Defend
sass.
objective A.
Hold fast! Do not let them through! Don't
Defend
sass.
objective A.
Let them through!
I want to talk about target priority, I think. But let me make sure I'm seeing this right.
All patched up. All patched up.
Going CSI on this one. Okay, so if Doomfist dives you and you have no idea where he is, which you clearly didn't. I mean, I mean, I assume you didn't because you turned around to the opposite direction. You can kind of do this panic flashbang where you just flash your feet and hope that it stuns him, because it probably will. Because if he just seismic slant and uppercut you, he's probably going to be right in your face. But anyways, notice how here the Widow takes 2 shots, misses twice. Did she fire 3 and then still miss? No. Oh, she fires 3. So you get shot at 3 times, and you don't notice the Widowmaker. I mean, if you do, then you weren't playing around her. But it looks like you didn't notice the Widowmaker. So when fights get chaotic, just try to, you know, take a breath and hone in, because it does look like that whole fight was very kind of panicky.
60 seconds.
Well.
That was fine. You do reload a little too much. But I don't need to see if that's a theme or not. because I think 3 times so far you've reloaded with bullets to the left in your foot. Okay, I really like that Deadeye usage. Playing behind your Reinhardt. An inch farther and you were dead. Okay, so this happened again. Did you roll forwards as well? Was it the exact same thing as before? I think it was. I might be wrong. Let's find out. No, you just walked forward. Okay, so this happened with the Hanzo into the Grav, and I think the root of the problem is when your team takes the advantage, like when you're Grav Dragoning, so your Reinhardt's got a huge slam. You go aggressive, which is fine, but then you continue the aggression too much. So you escaped that on 15 HP, and I'd argue that you were fairly lucky to survive. So I'm glad that you recognize when your team has the advantage, but the issue is not knowing when your team has the advantage, it's what you're actually doing with that information. You're going way too hard than you need to be. Skip. Okay.
Ready for battle.
Hello there.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Very well.
1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Get here.
See that which is unseen.
Escort. Behind you.
I'm on fire. Anyone want a piece of me?
Yeah, so like when you have these angles where their main tank isn't shielding them, you do a lot more than when you frontline. Okay, so what are my thoughts? Okay, so I think maybe I remembered it wrong, but your aim definitely seems better than before. But the big thing I want you to work on is flicking, because your flicking is definitely what you need to improve on most. What I said last time that I still want you to improve on is the Storm Arrow usage and Sonic usage. Your Sonic usage got better. I want you to take the concepts that you've applied to using Sonic Arrow and just go further with them. But the Storm Arrow, again, you need to try your best to avoid holding left click when you don't need to. Like, sure, if you're spamming into a Reinhardt who's point blank or a Reinhardt's shield, sure, hold left click. But if you're going up against like a Lucio who's, wall riding all over the place, you really want to aim those shots. You're really not going to hit many of them other than one or two. Your dragon usage is good. I want your positioning is decent. Your positioning is fairly safe most of the time. Sometimes it's too frontliney. Like either you're too close to the enemy front line or you're not flanking enough. So try to pay attention to where the enemy front line is positioned and think about how you can position yourself to get around the enemy front line or distance yourself from the enemy front line. Because Hanzo is not Reaper. And the other part of your positioning that needs work is going too aggressive when you have the advantage. But those were just two small mistakes. So yeah, in general, flicking, Storm Arrow, and flanking. That's what I want you to work on. Flicking, Storm Arrow, and flanking. If you do those three, then I think you could, like, 2700 shouldn't be difficult for you, because you definitely have the tracking mechanics to do it, and as soon as you boost up your flicking and you start pairing those two, you'll start noticing the difference in the amount of damage you do and the amount of eliminations you get. But overall, I think you're starting to do really well, and that's great. So I'll see you soon. Bye bye.